Namaskar and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, show on India's national television channel Doordarshan about Indian foreign policy, India's international relations and developments around the world that are closely linked to India's rise. Viewers, this is a special episode where we are discussing global crises and challenges all across the world. We are living in a time of great turbulence and tumult, and the mounting challenges in different dimensions to international security and prosperity. This is what we are going to be looking at closely. And to discuss this, I have with me a special audience of very gifted, talented, and articulate young Indians drawn from multiple colleges and universities across the country. 21 of them have come to the studio to discuss this with me, and I'm really privileged to have a young audience once again because their voices matter. Welcome to Indian Diplomacy and to Doordarshan, friends.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so global crises and challenges, we are actually living in very troubled times. As you very well know, you are all studying and pursuing the international relations and political science, and you know we are not in normal times. And on many parameters, if you judge the state of the world today, you can argue that we are in trouble. And things are not looking so good, and we need to do something about it. So I want to bring you in to start with, to reflect on the state of the crisis, the multiple crises that are roiling the world and why that is so. And if you look at the big picture, the number one issue that comes to mind is wars and violence and armed conflicts. We all follow them as students of international relations, and we are concerned about them, and sometimes we feel helpless about them, but they do impact on our lives, even though we live in a relatively secure country like India. The point is the global conflict map. If you look at it, there are a lot of red pins that people are placing, saying there's war here, there's armed conflict here, there's an interstate conflict, there's an intrastate conflict, so-called internal wars and civil wars are also growing in, escalating in size and in scale. And the casualties, by one count, in the year 2024 alone, there are more than 200,000 deaths caused purely due to armed conflicts worldwide, and the numbers are showing an uptick and an upsurge in wars and violence. So let's begin with this, and reflect a little bit on why these wars are happening. What happened to deterrence? Deterrence was supposed to prevent revisionist powers from attacking and going on the assault against their neighbors or their adversaries, but deterrence seems to have broken down, and revisionist powers are on the move. And it looks a lot like the 19th or the 20th centuries. In many ways, there is a arms build-up also. Global weapons sales, friends, this year have risen to $3.2 trillion approximately. It's a record. So people are also beefing up muscle to prepare for wars, if they are not already in wars. So we are in a very dark time, and Prime Minister Modi has said this is not the era of war, but maybe he meant that this should not be the era of war. More like it ought not to be, but the reality is wars and violence are escalating and proliferating. So let me bring in someone from among you to think about this big problem. Why do you think this is happening right now at this juncture? And talk about some of the major theaters where armed conflicts are broken out and their dynamics. Would someone want to join in, please? Yes, please.
Friends, here Tina Chaudhary. I am from Rajasthan University and from Jaipur, Rajasthan. So here I would want to point out that after the World War II, the nuclear weapons are making a role of the deterrence power, that called the weapons of mass destruction. But right now the threshold limit of the countries is very low, and they are more provoking with the new technologies as the missile defense technologies, AI drone systems. They are making the killer drone systems, and the more these kind of the technologies make their power of the deterrence is vulnerable at the global situation. So here that as also the alliance of the nations with the non-state actors and the external states that are putting role to influence the other states' work, as the Russia-Ukraine war, where the other states, as the United States interventions and the provocation to Russia, that making the war for imperative to take in role there. So the role of the Axis powers, as Iran is involving with the many alliance called the Axis of Resistance, the Hamas, Houthis, and the other Hezbollah rebels. So that here is the situation that make the world in the turmoil situation, that geopolitical links between these countries, the alliance of the China, Iran, Russia, and the other hand the North Korea kind of the states are putting their role in it, so that making the conflicts at the higher level where the deterrence is very low and at a weak situation. So here now all the countries have to come together and explore the new deterrence power, where the space and the other sectors are now going to vulnerable, where the satellite systems, as the India also have its all anti-satellite system called Shakti. So that power that Russia is going forward. So there is a need of the new exploring deterrence at the right now, and the world have to come on this topic as well.
Okay, thank you. So alliance systems and coalitions are now ranged against each other. The late Shinzo Abe of Japan, who we lost unfortunately, used to say that in 2014, this is about 10 years ago, he said that the world of 2014 looks a lot like 1914. And you know what happened in 1914?
Yes, sir.
It was World War. So there is a military build-up and there is a return to high level of geopolitical competition and contestation. That, viewers, is something that's driving a lot of these wars forward. And of course, there are unconventional threats like terrorists, but really the return of conventional geopolitics is what is the big feature of our times. The post-Cold War period we didn't see as much, but now it seems like traditional great power rivalries are driving a lot of this. Would anyone else want to come in about the wars that are going on? And mind you, it's not only Russia, Ukraine, or Israel and its neighbors. There are also wars happening in Africa. There's a war, big internal war happening right next door in Myanmar, across our own borders, and so on. So would someone else want to come in and talk about wars in a broader sense? Yes, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Achal Singh. I have completed my graduation from Delhi University. So if I say war is a war, in war nobody wins, everybody loses, is a very right proverb which I could use here. And in today's contemporary era, if I see there are many war conflicts and armed conflicts held in the world at international level. Because of various reasons. Main reasons for the war or armed conflict is terrorism in that state and non-state actors which are making it happening a war. And there are many other reasons also, like geopolitical tensions which is going around the turmoil and making the tensions high. Political and criminal syndicates are also here. There is a very good article which I read from our former National Security Advisor, or M.K. Narayan sir. He has wrote that article. In that he has told us that terrorism has took a new form, because so we need to make new skills to tackle that. Now new technologies are also here, which is making it more difficult to tackle from the problem, because war is not a solution. It need to be tackled, and terrorism is making a major aspect in that. So India is always at the forefront. For India, there is no good or bad terrorist. Terrorist is a terrorist which need to be controlled. For that, India has propounded many solutions also, like CCIT, a comprehensive convention on international terrorism, which India is focusing from starting, but at international level nobody is paying a heed to it. So we could work to control terrorism. If terrorism will be controlled, state or non-state actors will be controlled, then we could able to control the wars, and these armed races could also be stopped.
Thank you. So our friend from Delhi University is talking about the link between terrorism and armed conflicts, and yes, they are closely linked. The Global Terrorism Index, viewers, which compiles data, shows there's a 22% increase in terrorist attacks and casualties in 2024, and it's likely to proliferate further. So there is a problem there, but it's not only about terrorism, isn't it? Because, for example, the Russia-Ukraine war is not linked to terrorism. It's a territorial dispute, and it has to do with great power politics and balancing and proxy wars and such things, right? So would someone want to come in and talk about other forms of wars that are happening, which are linked to more conventional type of threats and conventional insecurity? Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Saurabh Dwivedi. I have graduated from Pune University, and the major flux which is happening right now in international relation is the change in liberal world order, and the revisionist power like China, Russia and Iran are challenging the hegemonic role of US, which US has maintained after Second World War. Now these challenges need to be referred, and countries are not hesitating from using non-state actors as a state policy. So these are the major challenges, and strategic move of countries are not aligning with hegemonic countries like Western countries and EU. So these are the challenges which we need to focus more on.
Why do you think revisionist powers need territory? I mean, what is the driving force there? I mean, why can't they just be satisfied with high economic growth or welfare? Why are they aiming at territorial expansion? That's something that needs to be understood, isn't it? And that's fueling the wars.
So territorial expansion is interlinked with the sphere of influence in nowadays. So countries, mostly Eastern countries, are trying to propagate their sphere of influence beyond their regional conventional areas. So countries like China the actions of China in South China Sea can be seen as one of the actions which China is focusing right now to propagate as regional influence, like muscle flexing in South China Sea, and Taiwan, building pressure on Taiwan.
Thank you. So revisionist powers, viewers, are on the move, and they are becoming more aggressive, and that's one of the reasons why we are having more wars. And they seem to be dissatisfied with the existing status quo. They are not satisfied with the current security architecture in many parts of the world. They want to change it by force or redraw borders by force. And we thought that this was not 21st century civilized conduct and all that, but people are not willing to abide by these norms anymore. And as has been mentioned by our friends, there is also the question of the existing liberal order that was built by the US and supported by the Europeans, and that seems to be also collapsing and unable to convince all sides to play by the rules, quote unquote. So rules based international order, international law are falling on the wayside. We don't hear much about the utility of the United Nations and allied intergovernmental structures in being able to stop or to halt this free fall that we are seeing. So the guardrails seem to have collapsed. It's not just deterrence, but even the international institutions and international law. I think they are at their weakest, and they are not able to really come in and play the role of some kind of put a brake on these violent actors. Anyone wants to talk about international law and institutions and why they seem to be in such a weak condition right now? Yes, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Saloni and I am from Lady Sreeram College for Women. So you asked about the questions regarding international organizations. So international organizations like UN and even international conventions, they are not working right now as a deterrence for different kinds of wars and conflicts that are happening worldwide. One reason I can think of is the rise of revisionist powers and also the non-state actors who are not signatories of these conventions. So they don't find themselves accountable to these laws, and neither the international organizations can hold them accountable. In addition to that, we can say that there has been post 9/11, there has been decline in US hegemony and rise of different new powers as economic power or even territorial powers. And these powers are very aspirational in nature, and they want to expand as much as they can, because this is the time when US is going at low, the economy is going at low, and so they want to legitimize their domestic strength also and international strength also. In a way, they are trying to expand, but the problem is that the conflict of interest is happening, and that is leading to conflicts. But international organizations like UN, even if it tries, it doesn't appears to hold people responsible for their acts. Even if we do peacekeeping movements in different parts of the world, it is just appearing as a humanitarian aid. It is not adding up to the conversations or building up the consensus or conflict resolution in different parts of the world. So that is a major reason why it is not putting an effect in conflict resolution worldwide.
Thank you. So viewers, our friend from Lady Sreeram College, Delhi University, is saying that conflict resolution is not happening and there's just band-aid, I mean, at most. That's we are seeing, and a lot of this also has to do with the fact that the enforcement of international laws and norms is weak, and there is this attempt by many forces to remake the order, and they are emboldened by it. She also made a very interesting point about more powers being in the fray now than was the case, let's say 20-30 years ago, when it was seen as a unipolar world order. But now we have two great powers, China and the US, and also many emerging and rising powers that are also trying to make a claim for great power status or restore great power status. In the case of Russia, although it's been in decline, there is an effort to reclaim great power status, maybe through territorial conquest, although it's not working for them. So the point is that we are in this emerging multipolar era where there is a power transition going on from one order to another, and these transitions tend to be violent. These transitions tend to be unstable because there is no settled order that we can see, right? Okay, moving on, let's talk a little bit about other related crises. We've already established the fact that we are in a war-prone or a conflict-prone era, and with high geopolitical contestation and turbulence. But what is the result of it on the ground? Already we spoke about, mass suffering, and this is not a small thing, because the refugees and the internally displaced persons, for example, the UN data for 2024 says there are 120 million of them. This is like record-breaking figures, not seen, in many decades. So we are in that kind of a moment where the human consequences of warfare and disasters are rising, and the management of this problem is quite weak, and many people are unable to resolve the problem at the source, which are these wars and armed conflicts and disasters. And then what happens to refugees and displaced people when they cross borders? There are like fortresses that are being set up to try and prevent them from entering. So this is actually a very dire situation, and you can see this in the Mediterranean, for example, people trying to flee a lot of armed conflicts in Africa and enter Europe. You can see this in the Western Hemisphere, further west, when people are trying to move from Latin America and enter the United States. And this is a worldwide phenomenon. Even right next door, we have a problem-ridden country like Bangladesh, and we have massive influx of refugees, IDPs, immigrants. It's a mix of all these who keep coming in without legal means, and you know what the consequences are. So let's focus a little bit on this problem, and what is the world doing about refugees and IDPs, and why are we failing to manage this crisis as it builds? 120 million 2024, who knows what's going to happen in the years to come. It can get even worse. So it looks like there is just no floor, and we continue to fall deeper and deeper. So forced displacement, this is one of the big humanitarian crises that's becoming bigger. Let's talk about it. Can someone come in and talk about the refugee problems globally and what we can do about them? Yes, please.
Greetings everyone, I am Lakshya Garg and I have done my graduation from SRM University. And so as we talk about the migration and the forced migration, we have to say it's one of the biggest emerging problems globally and on humanitarian grounds also. If we see the reasons of the migration, there are both in out and the inflow and the outflow of the migration. Like for the outflow, the people are facing the economic crisis in their countries where they don't have the employment, they don't have food, and for so finding the economic stability, they go outside. They don't have political stability or the stable government which make the policies for them. The social crisis or like conflicts between the religion or region force them to go outside. And so the conflicts of the land or the wars, the terrorists, others reason are the reason why people have to left their land where they born. And so for the inflow, like if we see the people go in the US or Canada, the inflow there is very high because of their economic stability. People get the better life of living, their standard of living there, better employment opportunities and other things, better stability, the stable government, stable neighborhood and the life, and so other factors also. But if we see the migration globally, there is a phenomena like we have the point of view that it's against our sovereignty and our security issues. So we have to balance both the things, like kind of sovereignty and migration, because it's a humanitarian ground. It's our responsibility to help our further brothers and sisters. So we have to take a balanced approach to maintain our sovereignty and security and to help the people. In that way, we can have a strict borders and open heart policy. Like we can maintain the security of our borders, more tight security and other things, but we have to open for the migrants in our country. We can take a global responsibility where the neighbors, like we are having the issues in the Bangladesh, so India can provide them the asylum, but the Western countries can also provide them the help like medical aid, financial aid and in many other ways.
Right.
And as Prime Minister says that it's a Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, whole earth is a one world, one home. So we have to help each other to have a great world and bright future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So viewers, our young friends are talking about strict borders and open hearts. That's an interesting formulation. We do need to balance national security considerations with humanitarian concerns, and it's becoming harder because you find that many of the migrants or the refugees, especially in Europe, have also been named for being involved in terrorist attacks and such things. So there is a backlash, a huge backlash, an anti-immigrant, anti-refugee sentiment that you see in richer parts and more stable parts of the world. And nonetheless, the issue is what's happening at the source. The refugees sending countries, the instability there, the wars, and the in the case of Latin America, you have, it's not so much wars but organized crime, big cartels, drug cartels who have taken over whole countries and have made life quite miserable. And these trends seem to be going up. The International Organization for Migration says that now we have something like 280 million migrants worldwide, and this is again record data. So clearly mass flows of humanity is happening, but we don't really know how to manage this. And many people, of course, are turned back and are repatriated or deported, and we don't know what happens to them at the end of the day. So this, would anyone want to talk about specific cases of refugees and migration in different parts of the world and what you're seeing and what more we can do for them? We already heard one opinion about this. Yes, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Kiran Kumar Senapati. I am from Vignan IT, Jawaharlal Nehru Technical University, Kakinada. Sir, you mentioned about refugee crisis that were happening in the world right now. It is a big humanitarian challenge to all of us because those countries which are sending the refugees, they are feeling very bad, and those countries who are accepting the refugees, they are also feeling very bad, because the countries which are there are certain conflicts, violence, and terror activities, and some are because of the things of persecution. All these people are going out from their country, because some people are going out because of the poverty also. So these are the things that refugee crisis are happening, and those countries who are accepting the refugees, they are feeling very bad, because for the economic strain they need to burden, and the cultural conflicts may arise in that country. And remaining things also happens, because they are of ethnic groups also. There is different types of ethnic groups. The remaining things can also happen. So countries who are accepting the hosts as a host, they are feeling very bad. So what in this situation we can do is, we need to strengthen the international organizations. We have UNHCR, which can provide the funds to every country which is hosting those countries. Hosting countries can give the space to them, but those countries cannot give the financial aid and their economic well-being. After hosting, they need to sustain their livelihoods also. So they need to provide different measures, for that all the wealthy countries who are having the economic surplus, those countries needs to provide the financial aid to them.
Yes.
In going some other where, it's a very unhuman thing. It's very shame to us. So the World Convention needs to happen on this. Already we have some, and we need to strengthen those measures internationally.
Thank you so much. Our friend from Kakinada, Andhra Pradesh, has come all the way. He's talking about persecution, which is a very specific thing, where state or non-state actors are actually applying direct threats to life and liberty, and therefore people are forced to leave. And he's also talking about the need for broader burden sharing. I think our young friends have been talking about burden sharing as the key principle. Right now it is very unfair. There are a lot of developing countries that are receiving a large number of refugees, and they themselves have to fend for their own citizens first, and are facing the financial pressures. But there are richer countries that are not giving enough and doing enough burden sharing, and are unable and are shutting down their own doors. And on the other hand, nor are they willing to contribute to the UN and to other institutions as much as needed, so that they can then provide for these displaced people. So yes, it's a tragedy. It's a great tragedy. It's a human tragedy, and it's probably part of the bigger story where not everybody is taking responsibility. Right? There's a kind of like a skewed responsibility matrix, with only a few actors being forced to repeatedly absorb a lot of these burdens, but without receiving support from the rest of the world. And talking of that, there's another issue I want to bring to the discussion, another big global crisis, and this is probably maybe the mother of all crises, and this is also linked to the burden sharing issue we are talking about, and this is the climate change crisis. This in 2024, viewers, the average temperatures rose by about 1.6 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. So already we are crossed the threshold for manageable climate change, and it's getting worse. Quality of air, water, and the massive public health consequences of this all over the world. You are seeing untoward weather events, extreme climatic phenomena, forest fires, floods, rising sea levels. It's humongous, and we seem to be failing on this matter also, international community as a whole. And there's a big north-south division between them, as you saw recently at the conference of the parties in Baku, the COP29. And there was a huge gap between rich and poor countries on this matter. Again, the crisis, we know the solutions, but it doesn't look like people are willing to stand up and take responsibilities. Let's hear from some of you about the climate change crisis and what you see is happening and what more needs to be done to tackle this. I would say it's like the mother of all crises in many ways. Yes, please.
Hi everyone, this is Dharam Gopal. I am from Telangana and I am pursuing my graduation in Sri Venkateswara College, Delhi University. So along with terrorism and migrants issue refugee issue, the most important concept in the contemporary times is the climate change, and the most debated concept also. So before delving into this concept, I would like to give a brief overview how it has been evolved. So from 1995 onwards, so the climate change issue has been the contested issue. UNFCCC, under UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, 196 countries have been gathered on the basis of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It has been said that if the world increases its average temperatures, or not only average temperatures, if the world witnesses these kind of evidences again and again, we are going to have a devastating impact. That is, in ongoing futures, we will have an irreversible impacts. So due to that, 196 countries have been gathered, and they will have a conference, and that is came to be known as Conference of Parties. So from 1995 onwards, we are having COP parties, and the major reason for these countries to gather and to have a discussion is to have a consensus on the climate change issue. So sir, from the starting Conference of Parties onwards, there are three important issues which are going on, and India continuously backing on these principles. The first one is that historical responsibility issue, and the second one is common but differentiated responsibility, and third one is that each one having different capacities to address this issue. The first one, historical responsibilities, means the countries, there are certain countries which are contributing more to the global greenhouse gas emissions, and there are certain countries which are not so much industrialized. So there is a constant tussle even now. This tussle has been originated from 1995 itself only. That is HR, a historical responsibility issue, and CBDR principle. Why countries don't accept this climate change negotiation is that we need technology transfer. One is technology transfer, and then is fund. So these developed countries, they are not okay with giving money. Like from 2015 onwards, they have said that they have to give $100 billion, but they are not given till 2022. And now they are saying that they will give $300 billion by 2025. So it's not a huge amount.
That also, thank you. And that even this commitment now is in doubt with Donald Trump coming to power. I think the US is going to pull out of all these commitments.
Already has done.
So thank you so much. So our friend from Venkateshwara College, Delhi University, viewers is given a kind of a historical overview of the problem. It's quite clear this common but differentiated responsibilities, CBDR, is not happening, even though it's a accepted principle, and increasingly it's highly politicized, and there are different layers now within the global south. There's a so-called creamy layer, and then there is the least developed countries, and there's a lot of internal politicking among them, as well as with the richer countries as to who has to bear the burden. Anyone else wants to come in on the climate issue and what we can do about the climate crisis and where are we failing? We already spoke about the big global division, but how about like grassroots action? There are a lot of attempts to create a climate consciousness among ordinary people and to change lifestyles. Our Prime Minister has given a slogan of lifestyle for the environment, LIFE. It's not dependent on the COP or the UN process, but on daily lives and how to make it simpler and more nature friendly. What can we do about this crisis? I mean, this is just, and can India, our philosophy and our values really make a difference, and convert the whole world to live with a less carbon footprint and in a more greener fashion? Yes, please.
Hello sir, this is Prem from Eluru, Andhra Pradesh. I have completed from my BTech from Anna University. This climate change is a major problem revolving around all the countries. No, India is not at all the only country. Many countries is also facing this issue. We have to reuse, reduce and recycle all the equipments. This is the main point. And also we have to use the energy efficient devices and the power rating we have to use. We also have to take the help of innovation. Through artificial intelligence, through machine learning, we have to use all the smart devices. Through we can reduce the wastage of energy, wastage of the resources. Also, we have to encourage the new talent and young talent in all the institutions and all the manufacturing industries. So the new thoughts will be developed. So it will be improved across all the devices, across all the manufacturing. we have to take help from all the countries. Unity is the best policy. We have to take all unifiedly only we can resolve this problem. Individually, we can't solve this issue.
Thank you, thank you. So, viewers, our friend from Anna University is talking about principles by which we can actually conserve the planet and make it livable at least for some more time. And this doesn't necessarily have to depend on governments and on intergovernmental negotiations. So it's a kind of like a bottom-up approach to tackling the crisis, and maybe that is the only hope, because the logjam at the top, the lack of consensus and the division in the world, north versus south, power south versus global south, as some people call the more advanced countries within the global south as power south. So there are lots of divisions, right? So in spite of that, if we have to move forward, and by the way, it's not disconnected with the earlier crisis we talked about. The data is showing that a lot of the armed conflicts and a lot of the forced displacement, refugees and IDPs are linked to climatic disasters. So in earlier times, it was thought that a person who is fleeing armed conflict is a refugee, but not necessarily. Now you can flee drought or long spells of extreme heat waves and so on, right? So there is a problem there, and these are all interconnected, and sometimes we divide the issues based on thematic grounds. For example, for the climate crisis we have a different set of institutions. For refugees and IDPs we have a different set of institutions. For armed conflicts, the Security Council is supposed to be functional, but it's not. But then there are other conflict resolving mechanisms. So we all often work in silos on these different problems, when actually if you look at it, they are all interconnected, right? So this is another big issue. Anyone else wants to come in on climate and climate justice and what we need to do going forward? The Indian way, can we do something about the climate crisis the Indian way? Yes, please.
Hello everyone, I am Amandeep from Delhi University, and I would like to quote Mahatma Gandhi that he said that if India also develops at the same rate that West has developed, then India would need 9 more Earths to develop at the same rate that the West has developed. This is the main reason is that there is a great divide between the global North and the global South. West has developed almost 80% at a very enormous rate, when the most of the countries are colonies, and most of the countries have just reached their independence. So what India has to do, and what all are the measures, like the first measure is that of the climate finance. $100 billion that the convention is agreed has to be given by most of the Western countries and the international organizations. Second is the transfer of green technology, the greener technology, because poor countries can't afford green technology. So West has to compensate, because in the Eastern and the post-colonial countries have missed the bus of industrial revolution. They have directly jumped from agriculture to the tertiary sector. And I would like to also quote Indira Gandhi, that she said that poverty is the biggest polluter. So we have to ensure that we have to make the Paris Agreement more stronger. That Paris Agreement deterrence of Paris Agreement is not working. So we have to, and as you mentioned, COP29 summit. So this has to be followed.
Yeah, thank you. So there is, so our friends, viewers are talking about the need for developed countries to really pay up, and they haven't, and this is going to be a historic struggle, and without this we will not be able to ultimately overcome the climate crisis. Last but not least, economic growth itself has slowed down globally. Some of you are talking about unemployment, but there's much bigger issue with growth as a whole. The average growth in 2024 was just 2.6% global GDP, and this is much less than the pre-COVID-19 average of 3.2% between 2014 and 2019. So in other words, most countries are either stagnant. In fact, India is like the bright spot, as you know, is like the big hope, because we are growing much faster than the global average. We're growing even faster than China and most other emerging economies. So if you take the big picture, the global scenario as a whole, there is a slump and a continuous kind of a recessionary trends. and you are also seeing trade wars that can exacerbate these slower growth trajectory in the future. So in this kind of situation, what do you think needs to be done to rev up growth again? Global growth is really struggling. It's at an all-time slow pace in the last 1 decade, and it's not generating hope. We spoke about the immigration issue. This is linked to the lowering growth prospects as well. And you find that no matter how much governments intervene or pump in terms of fiscal policy or monetary policy, it's not enough to revive global growth. In some parts of the world, it is due to structural reasons like the population decline, demographic trends are looking down. But even generally, the recovery from the pandemic has just not happened. If you look at the overall global picture, India is an exception. So let's talk a bit about this economic downturn, and the prospects for 2025 are also not looking great. The prognosis are not great. So why is this happening, and what can be done to reverse it and to put the world back on the development track? Because right now it looks like economic growth and development are not receiving the adequate attention of policymakers either, even though it's a big problem and a big crisis. Would someone want to come in? Yes, please.
Hello everyone, myself Avinav Kumar Thakur and I am from Delhi University. Sir, you discussed about that the economy is in down pace, and we have witnessed that in 2024 the global growth rate is about 2.6%, and it is expected in 25 that it will decline and go to 1.7%. And India is dreaming of Viksit Bharat by 2047, and as our honorable Prime Minister has stated that India is following the policy of Vishwamitra. And if we notice the global order that is going on in the contemporary times, we see a state of anarchy is there. Everyone and every power is trying to suppose and impose its supremacy over others. And there is the way of, like in the 1950s after the Second World War, there were various sanctions were imposed, and somewhat that condition is building in this current world, that if you witness the Russia-Ukraine war, if you witness the Israel and Hamas war, and if you currently witness the Syria war, everything is being rotated around the anarchy situation. The power blocks are not even focusing on their own economic empowerment. They are just trying to roadblock the others' development. So if we want to address the humanity and make humanity survival, we have to advocate the global anarchical world order and make some solutions. So how India can and any other countries and regional powers can contribute to the global world order and make the economy again rise.
Okay, other views on economic revival? How can we revive the global economy? Please.
Hello everyone, I am Karan from Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and currently I am pursuing political science. And on global economies, whatever we have talked till now, everything is related to the global economy. Like all the crisis ultimately leads to economic slowdown. And the world has currently not, like, we have not overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, the hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, there are multiple crises after COVID-19. The Russia-Ukraine war started, which led to like a great economic crisis in Europe. Like it backlashed the European economy, and the biggest country in Europe, Germany, is in recession for the last 2 years, and now we are looking, we are everywhere else we are seeing that there is economic crisis. And China, which was the highest growing economy, is also slowing down, and the only major economy which is growing at a good rate is India. But I think like in the last quarter we have also seen a slowdown, and with a rise of xenophobia, like we are seeing the emergence of xenophobic leaders like Trump and other, he is also saying that he'll start a tariff war, and other also crises like terrorism. And recently we are seeing coups in many Middle Eastern countries like Syria, and all of this is combinedly like raising the prices of oil and gas, and we are again seeing an economic crisis. Overall, everything is impacting the economy, and the liberal world order, which was globalization, which was led by the liberal world order, this is collapsing. And now the interdependence of the economies are like going back. We are not interdependent on each other, and we are focusing more on regionalization. Like the groupings like ASEAN and EU, they are focusing on themselves. We are not focusing on the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which India gives. We are all going in silos, and this is all impacting the global order, and the economic crisis is emerging very fast rate.
Right, thank you. So viewers, maybe there's something in the Indian ethos that can help revive the global economic fortunes. Of course, India is setting an example through its high growth itself, but there is also the question of principles and values on the basis of which we can order the global economy. There are a lot of inequalities and there are a lot of divisions there also, not just between north and south, but also regionally, east and west, and so many other. So there is a significant problem there. And then there is also the question of fairness of the distribution of resources, which is another fundamental problem. Inequalities are at all-time high in the global economy. So it's low growth and also high inequality. Just think about it. That's like a double whammy, and that's not working. And clearly, regimes have also become very unstable because of these pressures coming from below, where people are feeling the pinch of this slowdown. Okay. We are running out of time, so I want to bring in the group on a larger question now about what India can do about any or all of these global crises. Clearly, we are a leader, clearly through our foreign policy, through our responsible behavior with regard to the environment, our humanitarian approach to conflicts and to disasters, and also our high growth. We are in a position to offer solutions. So apart from the broader slogans like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, what is it that we can do to ameliorate some of these global crises? What kind of leadership can we show, and can you give examples of institutions we may have created or which we are leading, which can help solve some of these global problems? Can I hear from someone who hasn't come in? Yes, please.
Hello sir, my name is Sreeram Chaulia. I am from Lalit Narayan Mithila University, Bihar, and currently I am pursuing political science and international relations. So when we consider the India's role in world economy or any other concerns that we have discussed till now, we can see that India has been developing its own economy in a way that it has been growing consistently for the last decade. And when we consider Marxist philosophy, that economy is the basic structure and every other institution is its superstructure. So in one way or another, every concern that we have discussed is related to economy. So if we focus on progressing our economy and progressing our environment, climate change, then we can address all the issues that have been discussed till now. For example, India has developed its own policies such as green hydrogen and National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture. These are India's ethos that have developed, and it can be a great initiative that the world can look towards India in a way that it has been leading in its own way.
Thank you. Apart from these, there's also the International Solar Alliance, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. There are many such unique Indian initiatives that actually can help solve some of these big global crises, isn't it? Anyone else wants to come in on India's leadership and how that will matter going forward to solve global crises and problems? Someone who hasn't spoken? Yes, please.
Warm greetings everyone. I am Akhilesh and I did my graduation from Delhi University. So in context of India, India has given many roles like Panchamrit, which is given by our Prime Minister Modi, under which we have achieved a lot of our goals like using non-fossil fuels or reducing the emission of carbon. And along with that, we are at the front in fulfilling the sustainable development goals. Either if we talk about hunger management or giving protections to women as well as children's, and the ongoing crises like crisis in Middle East or crisis in Ukraine. So India has the concept like war is not a solution. So the permanent solution is peaceful, and it will be more easier if we go by peace and by negotiations. and ultimately it will also reduce the immigration challenges, or if we talk about refugee crisis. So in the ongoing crisis, if we talk about more like global challenges like climate changes, or we talk about the conflicts in a global sense. Apart from these two challenges, we have more challenges like the cyber attacks and cyber wars, or we talk about the proxy attacks, especially in the region of Suez canals. So India has played a greater role like INS Kochi and INS Kolkata, where we are at the front encountering these proxies like Houthis in the South canals. And apart from these kind of things, India has example, or India has a ancient texture where we have environment friendly lifestyle. And in this context only, our Prime Minister gave Mission Life as well, where it is not the only responsibility of international community that they are the only responsible to change the climate change, to cater the climate change. It is our responsibility of everyone. And Marshall McLuhan said that there are no passengers on spaceship Earth. We are all its crew members. So it's all our responsibility to adopt environment friendly lifestyle, so that as a global person, as a global people, we will together, or integrated approach can help to counter these.
Thank you. Any last word on the Indian role in resolving global conflicts? Anything that hasn't already been covered? Yes, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Deepak Solanki from Zakir College, Delhi University. It's very common these days that whatever happen in the world look at India, that what statement Indian government will make, whether it is Russia-Ukraine war, whether it is a Syrian crisis, etc. The world is looking at India, what the statement our diplomats will give, and it's matter a lot. And if we see, as we seen in G20, that India invited African Union in the G20 summit. This prove already that India, even if India is a member of Quad, or even India is dealing with the developed nation or the Western nations, but India didn't forget its roots. That is global South. India is taking global South with it. For example, the voice of global South. And what India is doing, we seen in the past that Houthi rebels, Indian Navy take the responsibility to tackle these Houthi rebels in the Indian Ocean. Why? Because Indian Ocean itself, name itself say that it's India's territory, and Indian Navy should have the dominance in these oceans. And even the Western nations use India, or ask help from India to tackle their interest, to achieve their interest in the Indian Ocean, because Indian Navy is playing a major role. So I will take a leave. Thank you.
Thank you. So viewers, our young audience here has covered a whole range of dimensions with regard to global crisis, and they have come up with some ideas, but also there's a lot of hope and optimism even in these dark times about India offering solutions. It's not an easy thing for a developing country to be seen as a leader that can offer alternatives to take the world off the path of destruction and towards a more civilized outcome based on inclusion, common growth, prosperity and peace. These are big values, and India stands for these values. India acts for these values, and India has got a whole track record to show on these matters. So we are not just talking, but also creating new institutions and starting new initiatives. And this is the key for us to be seen as bringing security and prosperity to the world. It's not easy, like I said, but these young people here are optimistic, and so are we, because India is rising despite the global headwinds, despite the turbulence, and our diplomacy and our effort both at the level of citizens and the government has been to be responsible players on the world stage, and to show that with great power comes great responsibility, and that's India's motto also. And we would like this to be reflected and to be acknowledged on the world stage. But the problems are immense, and India alone cannot solve them. That much also, I think the audience today, the students here from across India are also realistic, and they are saying that other countries need to step up to the plate. Other kinds of actors, non-state actors are also involved, and all of them, the private sector, the non-governmental institutions, everyone has to come forward, and that's the only way you can try and rebuild what looks like a broken world order. So nonetheless, we will start 2025, the new year, with a sense of hope, and always believe that India is there, if not as the ultimate resolver of all problems, then certainly as a helping hand that will bring some of these problems nearer to a solution, if not to a full solution. So thank you folks, and keep studying and following what is happening around the world. That's the most important, the first step. And of course, please give your energies and your thoughts to all these big global crises. The next generation, all of you, need to stand up and be counted, and to be contributing to global well-being, because without that, as the saying goes, there is no planet B, and this is all we have, and we need to do everything to keep it safe and secure and prosperous. Thank you viewers for watching this special show, and I'll see you again next time. Until then, take care.